tropical rainforests of South America hide all kinds of rare and fascinating animals, including a host of one-of-a-kind frogs. The polka-dot tree frog may look like your typical aimless amphibian, but it actually leads a secret, glamorous life full of glow sticks and rave battles. By day, he's a mild-mannered croak Kent, but by night, he's a glowing personality. But sometimes, being seen is how you avoid danger here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, search Cassie Michelle on YouTube. But today, we're talking about a frog with a bright personality. More on that later.
He really gets to shine in this one.
He does. He does. But we're talking about the polka-dot tree frog.
Yeah.
A frog with 4 names.
A frog
And many
with...
more names, I'm assuming.
It's also called the dotted tree frog, which, yeah, sure, whatever. But we're going to call it here glow glands. Boana of Matu Nui.
Good.
Which we'll go on, we'll talk about later. And Gus Polinski. You know, the polka king of the Midwest. The Kenosha Kickers. Polka, polka, polka.
I called him Jan Levon, who was another polka king.
I can't name any actual polka kings.
Jan Levon was a guy, he was like in a polka band, and then he started, it was like in the 80s, and he started taking...
Drugs?
No, he started taking
chances?
Investments, like vague investments from old people. Like like he thought like he would take these investments and like invest them into his band and in other things, and then like return them. But like for some reason he got into a lot of legal trouble, and he started selling these trips to Europe and stuff, and like he started selling things he didn't have, in the hopes that once he had the money, he would have those things to give those.
Oh, it's a Ponzi scheme.
It's
exactly what
a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. So he's like this Polish immigrant who like stumbled into these financial crimes and went to jail.
the long arm of the crime, the Polish polka crime underworld.
Anyway, he was played by Jack Black in a movie, and I saw it. It was funny.
Oh, that's why you know about it. I was like, why does anybody know about this? And it's because Jack Black made it famous. I don't know. It's Jack Black or John Candy. Well, those are the two polka kings.
Exactly. Would you like me to do would you like to know where it sits in the taxonomic spectrum?
Yes, please. That'll explain one of my nicknames.
Okay. The kingdom is Animalia. You know it. You love it. You're in it.
I am.
The phylum, Chordata. You know what it means. Spines. Class, Amphibia. That's things that live in the water and in the land. The order is Anura, which is frogs and toads.
Mm-hmm.
The family is Hylidae, which is Link, and the legend, all the Legend of Zelda people.
Hylidae.
Just kidding. It's tree frogs. And then the genus is Boana, because Boana means family. And then also but it doesn't. It means genus.
It is the genus, but it doesn't mean genus. Genus.
It's not the family.
It's Boana of Matu Nui, here to take Maui across the ocean to restore the heart of Te Fiti.
Mm-hmm. But it's also gladiator frogs, which is a cool name. And I couldn't find why it was called that, but it's a cool name.
Yeah.
And then frogs of the genus were once in Hyla, but they were moved in a major taxonomic revision. 70 species were moved into the family, and more have been discovered since then.
Ooh, taxonomic revisions sound exciting.
But the species is punctata, Boana punctata. That's fun.
What a wonderful phrase.
How many times are we going to come back to this well?
Because this one's a good one though. Boana punctata.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show. Critter groups. Do you think I was going to say something else? Of course not. It's the part of the show where I ask you, Joe, a question, and that question is the same every time. What is the name of a group of this animal? Or what is the name of the term of venery? Or what is the collective noun? We've done frogs a couple times, and I know you know the answer is army. So we're going to do toads this time because I don't think we've gone that route. So, and since they're so closely related, all in the order Anura, so...
You did toads before, but it might have been before.
Yeah, we did the Colorado River toad, but that was long before critter groups arrived on the scene. So, if you saw a group of toads, would you call it A, a pile of toads, B, a knot of toads, C, a catch of toads, or D, a clasp of toads?
I think it's clasp. I think the answer is not. Final answer.
You think the answer is not what? Gotcha. I know what you're saying. I know what you're getting at. So that's your final answer?
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding. You are correct.
I knew that for some reason. That was familiar to me.
Is it? You knew it in a past life?
Yeah. Or we might have talked about it before. So, if you've never seen a red polka dot tree frog and you cannot Google it, I'll Google it for you. The frog is a typical tree frog, so it's like low to the ground, not like a toad where it sits upright, and not like a poison dart frog like we talked about before that kind of sits upright. It likes to sit close to the ground. It's kind of got a peanut-shaped body, and its head is kind of like the same width as its body. And they come in yellow and bright colors sometimes with polka dots on the back. I wonder why it's called that. But brownish auburn polka dots and big round bulbous eyes sticking off of its head. It is native to South America, especially Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, Peru, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and then all the way down into Argentina.
Ecuador. Yeah, it's a pretty standard tree frog, except for it looks like it has chicken pox, which is good because then it won't get shingles later on in life.
And like most tree frogs, it has those signature big ol' hands with the little discs on the end of them for clasping onto surfaces. But we've talked about frog. But how big is frog? Frog come in many size. So let's move on to the only way we could ever potentially find out the size of something, which
measure it.
Yeah.
I want to do a segment called Measure It, where we just go and look up how big it is.
That sounds just like, how would we ever even imagine that in our mind's eye? The only way we can do it is through a segment I like to call Measure Up. Welcome to the beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal's size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words Measure Up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We don't have a new Measure Up intro this week, so that means we get to hear from an animal, and Carlos has to guess what it is. Without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
Crickets. Oh,
there it was. Did you hear it?
Oh my!
A lot of these home videos will be like, "This is the sound of this," and then you click on the video, and it's like
45 seconds of nothing or ambient sound, and then one screech like that.
Yes, exactly.
All right. What are my options? Because I'm at a loss here.
Is that A, a rabbit? Is that B, a turtle? Is it C, a squirrel, the infamous squirrel? Or is it D, a toad?
Oh, toads make weird sounds sometimes.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
The animal is at a vet's office, and it has a respiratory infection. So it might be different than it should normally sound.
Okay. Well, I think it's less likely to be a turtle or a frog then, or a toad. Toad would be thematically appropriate for this episode, but since when have you been thematically appropriate with this part of the... It would throw me for a loop. I'm gonna go with a rabbit. Final answer.
A rabbit final answer. The correct answer is turtle.
No. That's a turtle?
Yes, and guess what his name is?
Wheezy?
Mr. Turtle.
Of course it is. Of course it is. He was named by a 2-year-old, right?
Apparently they took Mr. Turtle to the vet with a respiratory infection, but he wouldn't make this squeaky, raspy sound in front of the vet, so they took a video of it when the vet left the room.
Oh, he has asthma stage fright.
Yeah.
That is a really, really, really weird sound, because it's not like, oh, this is different from the sounds that turtles usually make. This is a turtle making a sound in the first place.
And it sounds like a squeaky, raspy little voice.
Yeah, I mean, you could have told me it was a bush baby and I would have believed that.
The introduction of the respiratory infection really made it so that it could have been any animal on Earth.
Except for
anything that can't get a respiratory infection.
Or like something huge.
Because it doesn't have lungs.
Everything respirates, even plants. But they don't have lungs.
Yeah. So, let's talk length.
Okay.
They are between 3 and 4 centimeters, or 1.2 and 1.6 inches. Snout to vent. That means...
Vent is the bum.
Nose holes to bee holes. They're 4 centimeters. Let's call it 4 centimeters or 1.6 inches. The upper end of average. How many polka-dot tree frogs go into the longest chain of paper animals ever?
Chain of paper animals? Like linking the barrel of monkeys kind of thing?
I think it's like, how like you cut...
Yeah,
you can cut like it looks like people holding hands or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was imagining.
I tried to find like what the heck is a chain of paper animals? And listen, Guinness Book of World Records, get your act together with the article pages for these records.
Be specific and take pictures.
Information. It'll be a standard photo of just like a bunch of different people doing a bunch of different records, and it just says, this ridiculous thing you've never heard of was this long. So it's like, okay, good.
Wow. So the potential for this is infinite. I don't even know. Like, it just could be miles long, or it could be like 10 feet. It's probably.
Well, I did find some information, but through different sources, and here's what I found: the chain depicted jaguarettes. You know what that is?
It's
jaguarettes.
It's when you randomly screech out like a jaguar compulsively. It's like Tourette's, but for jaguars.
No, it's an endangered species of jaguar native to Argentina. It's a subspecies.
Yeah, it made more sense than what I said.
The record was achieved by Kinder Natuns in Buenos Aires. So what is a Kinder Natun? I think it has something to do with Kinder Surprise.
It's like a child. I don't know. What's a Natun?
I don't know. But I typed it in and Kinder Surprise came up. So maybe it's that.
It's because you put Kinder in there. And all right, my guess is so my guess for how long it is.
If this is a person's name, I'm so sorry.
Kinder Natun.
Yeah,
that's true. It probably is somebody's name actually, or it's like a.
I think it's a company. So
I'm gonna guess that it's a mile long of paper animals, and which would mean that they are. So my guess is my guess is that it's a mile of paper animals, which would mean that 39,600 of these frogs go into the length of this extremely long and possibly impossible chain of animals.
Final answer?
Yes, 39,600.
The correct answer is 19,065. The chain was
I don't-
762.63 meters, or 2,502 feet.
That's about half a mile. I was
Yeah.
exactly double. And I have no way of knowing, like, why couldn't they do a mile? Just with
They didn't
more
have enough
paper and
I
some tape.
guess.
Yeah, you just need more paper and tape, and you could just beat that world record in, I guess, a couple days.
Unless they weren't allowed to use tape and they had to make it out of this huge roll of paper.
We'll never know because Guinness just doesn't want to provide details here.
Let's talk weight.
All right, that's a little rude, but
So I couldn't find the weight of this little boy, but he seems about the same size and length as gray tree frogs. And gray tree frogs weigh like 0.25 ounces or 7 grams.
okay.
So unless gray tree frogs are thinner or denser, then it should be about that size. So how many tree frogs go into the weight of a jaguarette?
You said
jaguar.
0.25 ounces?
Yes.
Okay. That helps.
A fourth of an ounce.
Quarter of an ounce. Oh.
Here's a hint. Jaguar weight is relatively wide-ranging, but we're going for the upper end of average as always.
I'm just learning about these jaguarettes.
It's just a jaguar.
Oh, it's not a smaller... I thought you said it was a smaller subspecies.
I think it's a subspecies that's native to Argentina. I don't think it's its own species. I couldn't find... there was a lot of, like, what is a jaguar? All this information that came from Guinness was strange.
I mean, it sounds like a little jaguar.
Kinder, Natoons, Jaguarettes. What the heck is all this stuff?
Or it sounds like the name of the femme fatale in a movie. It's like, hi, my name is Mr. Evil Boss, and this is my assistant, lovely assistant, Jaguarette.
I'm Kinder Natoon, and this is my lovely assistant.
The Adventures of Kinder Natoon and Jaguarette. Okay, so I mean, if jaguars are huge, so I'm going to say that the weight of a jaguar is 300 pounds. My guess is that 19,200 of these frogs go into the weight of a jaguarette.
Final answer?
Yes.
You would have been close if we were going with the rare case largest ever jaguars, which can be up to 348 pounds. But we went with the upper end of average, which is 212 pounds. So the answer is 13,737 frogs.
That is some wide-ranging weight distributions.
Yep.
It's like it can either be just over 200 pounds or 350 pounds.
So if you're talking a particularly small female versus a particularly large male, it can be like hundreds
That's
of
true.
100-pound difference or 200-pound difference.
That's true. It's like elephants and stuff. Okay, well, that was a little bit better than the first one.
Well, that's all I got for that. Are you ready to hear some fast facts?
Yep.
So, Mr. John Levon likes to live in subtropical and tropical swamps and forests, but they can also be found in urban areas and gardens. The Polka King and his cousins live in Central and South America and in the Caribbean, but Jan himself hails from Argentina. So the tree frogs of his genus are all over South America, but this boy is particularly Argentinian. Tree frogs are so named because they spend a majority of their lives in trees away from ground predators. They have a superior climbing ability when it comes to compared to toads. Tree frogs may come to the ground to mate and spawn, but some lay eggs in the water that's collected in like bowl-like plants, and they never have to leave the leaves.
You could say that they go toad to toad when it comes to climbing.
With what?
with toads.
They don't. They leave them in the dust. Most tree frogs are smaller than toads because it helps them to get around on thin branches without falling.
Makes sense.
Hylids have forward-facing eyelids. I mean forward-facing eyes, which give them binocular vision, and that helps them move around and leap from branch to branch and see things in front of them rather than all around them. And it also helps them find prey. They find that, isn't that true? Like, binocular vision is better for things that are higher up. If your face is high off the ground, it's better to be forward-facing with your eyeballs. I think we talked about that.
I think it's more of a if the animal is more prey than predator, then it tends to have eyes that are on the side so that it has more
evasive maneuver opportunities. We talked about eyesight when it came to that Pallas's cat because it had round pupils.
Yeah.
Where cats of its size usually have slit pupils.
Cats in general usually have slit pupils.
Big cats have round. Like tigers.
Well, I guess most species of cats are not big cats.
That's true. Hylids lay eggs in a variety of locations, including traditional spots like ponds, but they may also lay them in trees and holes in trees. Some lay eggs in sticky clusters on the sides of plants, and then when the eggs hatch, the tadpoles fall from the plant into the water below. Hylids are usually big-time bug eaters, feeding mostly on invertebrates. You're a big-time bug eater?
Big time.
But larger ones may take on more robust prey, like, I don't know, a very small mouse.
Feisty mouse.
Mighty mouse. That's all I got.
All right, well, then it's time for the major fact. Now, join me on this small physics lesson, because occasionally we have to delve into science. And when it comes to chemistry, I usually don't touch that with a 10-foot pole, but I have a general grasp on basic physics. So let's go. Let's join. Here we go. All right. So there's a lot of ways that light can be generated or interact with matter. Luminescence is this. Right. So luminescence is the spontaneous emission of light that doesn't result from heat. So not like fire. Even though fire generates light, but that's because it's hot. So this would be a cold light, luminescence. And there's lots of different kinds, and we've actually covered some of them on some of our episodes. One is fractoluminescence, which is light that's produced by breaking crystals, which is crazy. There's electroluminescence, where light is produced by an electrical current. There's bioluminescence, which we've talked about a lot, where light is produced by chemicals inside of an animal, so there's a chemical reaction. And there's even sonoluminescence, where light is produced by a really intense sound, specifically the sound of an imploding bubble. And if you remember, that's what the mantis shrimp uses as a weapon. So if you remember that episode, if you go all the way back to episode 6 or something, you'll hear us talk about how the mantis shrimp can create these bubble cavities that implode and become hotter than the sun for a second, and also light up just at the sound. So it's pretty crazy. But let's talk about a relatively new one, photoluminescence. There are two types of photoluminescence.
That's a camera flash, right?
Well, so that
it's a luminescence from a photo.
From a photo, yeah. Whenever you take a picture, it just lights up the sky. There's phosphorescence and fluorescence. And so this polka-dot tree frog uses fluorescence. And so with fluorescence, photons, light particles, are absorbed at a certain wavelength and then emit those photons back out at longer wavelengths. So light is, we all know light is a particle that travels in a wave format. The longer the wave, the different kind of light is produced or absorbed. So for a long time, zoologists thought that only fish and invertebrates possessed fluorescence, with the exception of some parrots. Apparently, I couldn't find out which parrots were fluorescent, but it's probably something we might want to check into later. The mantis shrimp is fluorescent. But they discovered the polka-dot tree frog was fluorescent back in 2017 when scientists shone an ultraviolet light on a few of the specimens that they had collected in Argentina. So when you shine this UV light on the frog, it goes from this normal-looking frog with chickenpox to this extremely bright, glowing blue or green frog. It looks like a glow-in-the-dark frog. Unfortunately, you can't see this glow without the ultraviolet light, so it doesn't just naturally glow like something that has bioluminescence, like a firefly. It requires the UV light, and if you don't know what UV light, it's black light. You see it at concerts and boomers and stuff like that. It's just a fun little thing that they use to make your shoelaces glow. But it's actually a form of electromagnetic radiation, aka light, that has a pretty high wavelength. So high, or I guess long wavelength. Wait. No, sorry, short. Has a pretty short wavelength, and it's so short that you can't see it. Because you see, kids, like diarrhea caused by some bad ceviche or filthy Venetian water, light comes in waves and varying intensities. The longest waves are AM radio waves that can be like 100 meters long, and the shortest waves are gamma rays, which are 0.0001 nanometers and are more likely to kill you than turn you into the Hulk. And we humans only see wavelengths between 400 and 750 nanometers. So we see a really small portion of the entire spectrum. And all the colors and everything that we see falls within the spectrum. So it's pretty interesting to think that we can only see just a tiny fraction of everything that's out there. Everything else is invisible to us. So ultraviolet light is invisible to us. It's just barely too short for us to see, just past, well, you guessed it, violet. So since the frog's skin takes short wavelengths and then produces long wavelengths, then it takes in the ultraviolet light, which is just outside of our zone, and then turns it into a wavelength that we can see, because it just increases the wavelength a little bit. So that's why we can, and the same thing happens with anything that's fluorescent, whether it's, there might be fluorescence on your shirt or your shoelaces or whatever. Fluoride on your teeth. If you use fluoride on your teeth and you go into like laser tag and you smile, your teeth will glow. It's all just taking in the invisible black light and projecting out a wavelength that we humans can see. But what makes this frog skin so fun, you might ask? Well, that's thanks to some special juice in the frog's skin. But this is where I jump off the science wagon, because then it gets into chemistry. And like we found out when we were talking about extremophiles and the scalyfoot snail, they just start saying sentences I can't comprehend. So we'll leave it at the fact that it's super juices in the frog skin. And because this secretion, they actually can leave fluorescent trails wherever they go. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the glowing under certain circumstances, shiny polka dot tree frog.
Did you know that they discovered it by accident?
By the shining the UV light on it?
Well, yeah, they were shining the UV light on it because they were trying to I think they found the juice, and they were like, this could be UV, like glowing. This could glow. And they thought it would just be like this little secretion, but the whole frog glowed.
They're like, whoa, that's bright. Because it is really bright. I mean, it's neon green, neon blue and green. All right, that was the polka dot tree frog, the polka king of South America. So, for you out there in Podcastia, stay bright, play it cool, and pay some of that light forward, like the polka dot tree frog here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey LDT listeners, thanks for listening to the end of the episode. For your loyalty, you get a shameless self-promotion from us. If you haven't already, leaving a review on your favorite podcast app can really help us grow. But telling your podcast-loving friends about us is even better. Also, don't forget to send in your Measure Up intros and animal suggestions to ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. As always, thanks, most of all, for listening.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
It's neon blue and green.
Same.
Really? I've never hit you with a UV light before.
Well, we've probably been. Have you ever been to Monster Golf?
No.
When I go to Monster Golf, I'm just shiny blue.
Oh, that must be spectacular. I know that we played a laser tag in the UV.
Oh, that's right.
Room. So I don't remember being blinded by your brilliance. But I may have just blotted that out of my memory.
It's repressed.
Yeah.